Utility Board public meeting for March 16th, 2021 is called to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Jen.
Robert Carnahan.
Here.
John Foreman.
Present.
Julie Rivera. Here. Ralph Miller.
Present.
Randy Niemeyer.
Present.
Colleen Sheben. Here. Richard Sharp.
Here.
I am present. Rick Everly.
Present.
David Austin.
Thank you. New business, approval of the minutes from the February 16th, 2021 meeting. Motion to accept and waive the reading of the minutes.
So moved.
Motion by Randy. Second by Ralph. Roll call, Jen.
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes.
Colleen Sheben.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes. Motion carries 7-0. Number two, Crow LLP Financial Advisory Services Engagement Letter. Rick, if I could.
This is the contract to do some work for us on the anticipated water bonds as part of the East Side water project. And we talked about this at the last meeting or meeting before, I believe.
We did. Anybody else?
The fee for this project is $42,000.
Yes, 42,000.
And then there's this $3,000.
Follow-up kind of thing, really, is
Yeah.
what it is, Bob. Yeah. Any other questions? We have a motion to accept the Crow LLP Financial Advisory Services Engagement Letter as detailed.
So moved.
Motion by Ralph,
I'll second.
second by Julie.
Yeah,
Yes, Dave.
I've seen this and I talked to Phil about this, it's all in the range,
It's all, okay,
parameter, scope of their duties for finance.
very good.
Previously, in
Dave.
some documents, they'd submitted to us what their cost and fee breakdown is for their different levels of advisors. So that's also been something that's been a part of the public
It
record.
has been vetted, yes.
That was my question. I just wanted to make sure we got the thumbs up from Mr. Austin and that East Side water is pretty important.
Yes. Thank you, John. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, Jen?
Robert Carnahan.
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julie Rivera.
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes.
Colleen Sheben.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes. Motion carries 7-0. Written report, fund report from our clerk treasurer.
Last week I sent you all the fund report and the expenditure report. It's been kind of a crazy couple of weeks, working on quite a few things with Sue Hayes. And this week I am actually in training, so we're moving along. I mean, if anybody has any questions for me, I don't have anything specific at this time to report to you all.
The general fund seems to be holding okay as where we are right now. Would you
Yes.
say so?
I would say so.
Okay, good.
So in your meetings with Sue, are we making progress on that deep dive into our stormwater?
Yes, the last I spoke with her, she was working on some of the capital planning. I imagine, hopefully,
Yes.
within the next couple of meetings, we'll have something. I
Okay.
will give her a call tomorrow and see where we're at.
Thanks, Jen. Any other questions for Jennifer?
There was the-
Moving on to
it doesn't
4,
have to,
consultant
but
and staff
you can
reports.
take that.
Engineer, Nice Engineering.
Back to, say, by the-
And there's a number 6 underneath, under the engineer
There was the-
this time, so.
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. Items 1, 3, 4, and 5 are proceeding. For this evening, I think the two main items are item 2 and item 6, as you had just mentioned. And what we have for you is the West Side Sanitary Sewer Interceptor Project 2 routing analysis. And if you want to briefly flip through there, we've proceeded as an extension of Project 1, which followed the feasibility report from 2016. And we've continued with that figure 5, which is actually figure 1 of this.
Yeah, figure 1, okay, yeah.
Which, if you look at that, we essentially copy and pasted that in there, which what we considered at that time, 2016, was recommended routing, and then continued forward with that with 4 options. And those 4 options ended up eliminating 2 of them right off the bat. One was due to, if we continued up Klein Avenue from the terminus of Project 1, we would end up crossing the CSX railroad tracks twice, and at a cost of between $1,500 and $2,000 a foot for a board and jack. That was just eliminated immediately due to not being feasible in terms of cost.
Mhm.
We had another route that we had considered that was running along what would be the east side of the unincorporated development that's directly west of the Preston subdivision. And when we looked at that in terms of topography, we would be significantly deeper with the sanitary sewer at a consistent grade with any of the other option 1, 2, or 3 routings, with essentially no benefit other than you have a very deep sewer that you have to pay additional costs for shoring, backfilling, excavation. So that was why we eliminated that routing as well. So what you end up with is moving forward to figure 2-1, 2-2, 2-3. And what this does is addresses the essentially photographs along that routing, some of the challenges we have with crossing a county regulated drain, which we've been working with the surveyor's office in the Lake County Highway Department as well, of what those areas are. And the intention is to be within public rights of way as much as possible to eliminate the cost for property acquisition, which you all know is significant. And also look at how do we minimize the cut or difference in elevation from the ground to the top of the sewer pipe to provide the best bang for the buck, if you will. Moving to figure 3, what we have is the 2 considered routes that were the what was left from what we eliminated from option 3 and 4, and what you see in the green and the blue. And those are overlaid on a soil map from the county and the state information that's available. And we believe that the soils in these areas are quite favorable, consistent with what we had in Project 1 as well. Obviously, additional specific areas of additional soil borings would be recommended, that we did as well in Project 1 and recent other projects that we've worked with on the town. But what we see from what those soil reports are, that those soils are quite conducive and favorable in terms of not needing additional shoring and additional excavation to provide a good solid base for this interceptor sewer. Moving on to Project 4, what we have on here is all of the adjacent property owners directly adjacent to options 1 and 2, and what those owners are, and where we have platted subdivisions, where we have unplatted property, and then where the end of Project 1, Phase 1, Phase 2, would be, which is the town-owned property directly southeast of 155th and Paris Avenue. Moving on to figure 5, what we have is the plat for the Preston subdivision, and the opportunities there in terms of the width of the platted rights of way. Some are improved, some are unimproved, which gives us additional benefit to not have to replace asphalt, road base, and deal with utilities in those points. And specifically working on the lower end of that plat, South Street and West Street, those would be the recommended opportunities with the recommended option as well.
Is that, is that all unincorporated?
It is unincorporated, but it is a platted subdivision. So there's a benefit to that.
So there's handwritten, David, plat of town of Cresta. Was that ever a true statement?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Well,
An unincorporated town, though, we've never had,
gotcha.
to my knowledge.
Incorporated in, gotcha.
Correct.
Well, that's pretty encouraging
Yeah, it's.
to have a couple of roads that we can tag into.
Yeah, and I've already been in contact with the Lake County Highway engineer, Dwayne Elmerson, on this issue, and obviously where we have any platted and improved roads, there would obviously be requirements to replace that material similar to any other
Right.
road project we do, or water main or sewer extension that we do that adjoins a county platted road.
Does that cost less than buying land?
Significantly.
Okay, very good.
I
like
would
it.
your attorney on that, but yeah.
Okay, good.
So what you see on figure 6 is what we came to with the recommended option that gives you essentially the lowest elevation excavation that you would need to deal with. There are some acquisitions that you required, and in the report, those are dealt with in, I believe, section 6. I'm sorry, section 7, which discusses the easement. But the challenge is getting the easement, which we've already done with project 1, would be continued with this. But I think the benefit to that would be lower project construction costs to move forward with that option 1 routing. And we can continue preparing those documents with Dave's office to move forward, securing appraisals and those things with all project. So figure 6 essentially looks at option 1. Of the 4 options, this is, again, the best bang for the buck. Staying on the west side of Glen Avenue, out of the right of way, along the right of way though, and acquiring those easements up to, and then west towards the Creston subdivision, then staying within those rights of way of South Street and West Street, and then moving towards 155th. And then once we got to 155th, what we looked at is how do we deal with the challenge of the utilities out there? And those were fairly significant on the south side of the street for those subdivisions, directly south of 155th, Misty Hills, and the other subdivisions specifically, and additional power poles in that area. So by staying on the north side, we have much less utilities to deal with, and I think as we all know, Nixville is good to work with, but they work on their own schedule. And we didn't want to get into a situation where we'd have pole issues to worry about. So what you have on the last figure, which is figure 7, 7.1, 7.2, this is what the proposed routing would be in terms of elevation for a profile view of section down through the ground where the sewer is anticipated to go. And this is the most optimum routing in terms of having as minimal cuts as possible, but still having the opportunity to have separation from those existing utilities that are out there. Specifically on 7.1, there's that culvert crossing at 155th. And on 7.2, as we move down towards 159th at the lower left-hand corner, there is the storm sewer, which is a Lake County regulated drain that crosses Pine Avenue from essentially the southwest to the east, and additionally crosses under the CSX railroad tracks and continues south based on topography. So I understand that this meeting tonight, this is a lot, but please feel free to review the entirety. Send me an email with any questions you might have, and we can proceed from there, and I can respond to those anytime.
Very good.
Any
Very
questions
nice.
at this time?
Thank you, Neil. Any questions? Yes.
Any lift stations contemplated by this routing?
No, whatsoever. That's the ultimate point of this, is how do we get this by gravity?
Gravity.
I think Tim would probably agree. You have enough lift stations, but the goal of this is how do we do it by gravity and let Mother Nature and water goes downhill. How do you let that work for you? within.
You wanted to say
certain
something else
developments-
goes downhill. I know that. Having to do with sewage.
Yeah.
I could
if-
tell.
if I interrupt or something else, I'll
Yeah.
go down.
It was on your mind.
So within the development area or what was proposed, what you see on figure 1, which is the prior figure 5, is that individual developments may require lift stations due to their individual topography within the study area and what's projected to be served by the, I believe the number was 10,500 equivalent residential units within the entire area out to 41 and through the current service area that we're going to intercept. But what you have as part of the interceptor is it will be completely by gravity.
By gravity to about 41. Or is that to the municipal boundary at 150?
It would be by gravity to US 41 and 151st, including
So all
additional,
of that collection area would be.
by gravity, including additional areas directly west of Lingsway/Leadstone to intercept. And then that was part of the initial feasibility study is how can we intercept existing within the corporate limits sewers such as lift station 11, the new Rose Gardens, the additional that we're working on with the Hanover Central Middle School / elementary school, and bring those into this area to minimize the impact and the loading on lift station 2 and the Loudon interceptor. So that's included in the initial feasibility study as well, an 18-inch line running up the west side of Lingsway to do that collection.
By this recommendation, have you identified the number of parcels privately owned that will require acquisition?
Offhand, no, but we do have them all on, I believe, figure 4, which includes all those areas, but the specific number of units that would be, we need to go through, no, I don't have that up there. But it's significantly less than looking at options 2, 3, and 4.
No, that's okay. I was comparing that to the phase 1 routing that we had 3 private.
3, yeah.
owned
Yeah.
Parcels to acquire and, you know, if we had 10 or 14 or 2.
I can guarantee 2 things. There will be more units that will be impacted, but there'll be less in terms of scope. And that's more a result of in project 1, there was one very large property owner and medium-sized owner, and then a very small property owner that we had to deal with. This is somewhat different, but again, using the existing rights of way in Preston, South Street, West Street, and then moving on to the north side of 155th, there's a benefit there of dealing with smaller considerations for acquisition with more residents.
Looks like at least 15, David, to the end of phase 2.
That's what I counted, John.
Yeah, I just counted them,
Neil, what is?
at least.
Lineal distance of the acquired. 5,000.
I believe that,
It's 7,000 lineal feet. I think,
yeah,
first
that-
phase.
we did look at that in terms of the total area we're projecting. And I think we have like 2.6 acres, which is on page 9. So we obviously look for a 30-foot permanent utility easement, and then more than likely either an additional 20 temporary construction easement or additional 30, depending on the location and the situation.
You had just an excess of a mile.
Yeah, we're 5380, I believe, is our total project.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this project?
There will be some.
Okay, no, I understand. I certainly understand.
I will be expecting a memo shortly if,
So figure 6 is the one that we're going to use.
yeah, when figure 6 is the recommended alternative route, and I think, Bob, that's what gives you the best bang for your buck in terms of being at a consistent grade underground, has the minimized depth of excavation. from the contractor's perspective. You know, how deep are you? How much shoring do you need to have? And doing that, what you do is you eliminate the incredibly deep areas along the east side of those existing unincorporated lots, which are, you know, between 155th and 159th, Misty Hills and the other subdivision.
And I like the thing about no lift stations.
That is the absolute correct
Yeah.
analysis from the entirety of the feasibility study from 2016, where we started in 2014, and where we're at today of how do we let gravity work for us rather than work against us.
Neil, did you mention that this will allow us an additional capacity to serve 10,500 homes?
Equivalent residential units, and there's accommodation for potential projections for some non-residential,
Right.
and that actually goes back to what we looked at years ago regarding potential annexation and usage
Okay.
along the corridor, not only 155th, but as you move out towards US 41.
Right, thank you.
In order to get to that full capacity, there would also have to be another expansion project at the plant.
I guarantee it.
Yeah. So just because we're building it out to that doesn't mean the plant can handle it yet.
Absolutely, but what we have seen, and I reviewed this in the recent past with Jill and Tim as well, is what we've seen from Cedar Lake's perspective is the more development we have, the less contribution we have on a per unit customer basis to the plant, because you're building your systems, and that's working through CBEL as well on the plan commission level with a tighter system, things are being tested, and what you end up doing is, yeah, you're doing it right. Not that it was done wrong in the past, but the infrastructure, you know, it doesn't get any better over time. But what we have seen is a significant drop in per unit customer contribution to the flow between Cedar Lake and Lowell as you increase units, which is a positive for the town, to be sure.
2-3 years?
Thank,
Whenever you want.
Estimate?
For construction, we would need to start the actual design process and then move from that directly into property acquisition.
When can we start the design process?
That's 655, so.
7.
Because we needed it yesterday.
Yep, that's where I'm kind of going with it.
What would it take to get that part of this going, Neil, so the utility board can authorize design and get moving on this so we can take those steps?
If you were so inclined, as we mentioned at the last meeting, we're done with this ahead of time and under budget. I would be more than comfortable moving forward on very early part of design, additional utility locates and surveying within that existing budget. And then by your next meeting, I will have a proposal ready for you with a not to exceed amount to continue what we are moving forward to in the next month with that additional overage that we have available in the existing feasibility.
That would be great, because sometimes these large projects like this can be caught in planning phases for long, long periods of time, and that is not going to cut it when it comes to upgrading our sewer system.
Agreed.
So definitely get that stuff ready, and let's be ready to start taking some action.
Neil, do you need an NPDES permit or a work permit from IDEM? You need a construction permit?
Yeah,
Where do you stand in relationship to that component of?
that'll come at the end. And what I would recommend is based on what we at least saw on project one, is we file for our IDEM permit for facilities construction more concurrently with property acquisition, because as Dave will tell you, the property acquisition phase is challenging to be sure. And what we saw with the water tower as well, that was permitted, a couple of years back, and funding was the issue, and moving forward on that. But in terms of design, I think the right way to go is let's expend the remaining funds on the routing analysis, and then we can take that from what our proposal would be, because we're continuing on that. And then as we move through design, preliminary, we review those on the staff level, and then prepare those easements, work through Dave in his office. After that, we would move to item permit. We fortunately don't need an NPDES permit because we're just a customer community, even though we're a partner in the plant. Yeah, absolutely correct. Yeah, we would need an item permit, just as we did for project one.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Before we segue to the next item, I do have good news for you about land acquisition.
Good.
And I would ask tonight for your consideration of soliciting a motion to accept the Burley easements I have in hand to require your execution and ask Jennifer's for coordination. We have a Fox parcel, we have a Burley parcel. Last Friday, I have a hearing in court on the appropriation for the Jones parcel, which I expect to be by stipulation. And within 30 to 45 days, when the appraisers come in, we'll know what that is.
And those are the three we,
Those are the three.
okay, okay.
So,
What would you like for us to do this evening?
it's a motion to accept the Burley grant of easement and temporary easement.
Burley and Fox, can we do them together or?
We can do them together. I only have Burley with me tonight.
Okay, well, we can still approve, okay. Anybody like to make that motion?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
roll call?
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Julie Rivera,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes.
Colleen Scheeben.
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Richard Sharp.
Yes. Is that,
Thank you.
thank you, Dave. Is that all you needed to get this going?
Line
Okay.
acquisition
Okay, yes,
is part of the project.
Okay. thank you. Neil, were you gonna,
Yeah, what we have on item six is the risk and resilience assessment. That is a EPA mandate, and we've been working with Rick Everly and Dave. We're on track to have that submitted by June 30th of this year. And then within 6 months, by December 31st of this year, we have to prepare the emergency response plan and submit that to the EPA as well. Item will be copied. And that's moving forward on how do we prevent attacks to the physical and digital sites within your.
like we sort of saw down in Florida?
Yeah, there was an issue down there. The good thing is, that's not an issue that. you
Not here,
have.
the same thing? Yeah.
They're much more automated, which can be a benefit, but it
Mhm.
can also be an opportunity, if you will. So we're working forward on analyzing those issues that would be potential risk assessments, and then preparing that. We'll submit that in a timely manner by June 30th, and we can provide monthly updates and
I think that,
going
yeah.
forward through the end of the year, make sure we're consistent with the risk resilience assessment and the submission of the emergency response plan by the end of the year.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Neil on the risk and resilience item?
Thank you.
Thank you. Director of Operations, the Operation and Maintenance Report. Mr. Kubiak,
Evening.
good evening.
This month we had a couple issues at the Hazelwood pump house. Another well pump got burned up. We don't know if it's, last time we thought it was from lightning struck by lightning, but we found a couple splices and electrical wires that were done years past for putting in a generator and some grounding issues. We had all that redone. As recent as like $3,800 to do new wiring and get everything up to speed, and then we also had to replace a well pump, so.
Same pump that failed before, or is it,
Well, last time both of them got struck by lightning, so we assumed,
right?
but it was one of the two. There's
Gotcha.
two over, so, it's back, it's fixed, repaired, and moving on. We're trying to schedule getting the well cleaning and capacity tests done at Haydenwood. Jennifer's working on that to get us signed off with Sue to which dollars we use to do that, but then we could be prepared to upgrade those pumps and provide future, more capacity for the
Yeah,
future. So we already have pairs ready to go. We fix all that wiring at Havenwood, which hopefully will solve the problem. We're hoping.
Mhm.
And then, what else do we have? Well, then we got lift station 5 underway over here, Vector Bend Lighthouse going in, and it's actually in, the actual physical station is in. It's going as smooth as we can expect to be in right next to the creek. So,
Sure, sure.
but the deep part is in, it's got concrete around it, it's filled in. So,
Oh, okay, okay.
we're back to the above ground.
Yeah.
position, So we're making good headway on that, so. That's all I have.
Very good. Any questions for Tim?
Nope.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
I have one thing.
Yes.
As Tim had mentioned, moving forward on Havenwood and doing those pump tests, similar to what they did at Parrish. Part of the capital improvement plan was to, in 2023, replace certain pumps and motors to provide additional capacity. And what I recommend is working with Tim that as we go forward to replace pumps due to age or other failures, we replace them consistent with the capital improvement plan, which might just be moving from a 10 horse to a 15 horse motor, but
Okay.
to get you that additional capacity on the west side that provides longer term ability to serve not only max day, but peak hours for fire protection.
Very good. Okay.
We did look into that part of it when this happened, but since we did not have that testing done, we couldn't know how much we could.
And Havenwood,
It would have been
absolutely
at,
correct.
it would have been at the other place, we would have been able to go ahead and make that upgrade as a part of the replacement, so.
Yeah.
That would have been great. We did think of that, but we couldn't make that call without knowing.
Couldn't do it anyway. Okay. Very good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
Town attorney.
I have no report.
Thank you, Dave. JMOB, nothing, Rick, or
No.
nothing to report?
Nothing to report.
Okay.
Mr. President, before you
Yes.
go to public comment,
Yes, sir.
this is an outstanding item for a couple of years now, getting together a meeting with our friends at Lake Dale.
Dave.
We have made zero progress on that from what I see. So that is something that contractually we're supposed to do and we haven't done for many years. And while we're talking about interceptor projects, I think it's pretty important that we have these meetings with our customer at Lake Dale. So,
Rick and I are going to get together on that also.
okay.
Okay, great.
Share an agenda, contract review.
Okay.
Has anybody checked 159th to see if we've had any more problems down there with the lift station that was deteriorated a number of years ago and then goes down to the boom?
I believe so, Bob, but I can't not answer that for sure. I remember that was on the list of things to look at, and I think I'm pretty certain that they did.
All right, could you check and report back to us?
Yeah, I will double check.
Thank you.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Bob. Public comment? Any public comment? Anybody on? Jen, are we even?
No.
Okay. Seeing no public comment, this meeting is adjourned. Next meeting, Tuesday, April 20th, 2021 at 6:30 PM. We move to the town council meeting.
Meeting is called to order. This is the town council public meeting for March 16th, 2021. Start with the pledge of allegiance and moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call.
Robert Carnahan,
Here.
John Foreman,
Present.
Julie Rivera,
Here.
Ralph Miller,
Present.
Colleen Scheven. Present. Richard Sharp,
Here.
Randy Niemeyer.
Present.
I am present. Rick Eberly,
Present.
David Austin.
Quorum is established. We have a public hearing tonight, which is the reestablishing the CCD Fund Ordinance Number 1378. Mr. Austin, review of legals. Jen?
Mr. President, I have the proofs of publication from the Northwest Indiana Times and the Post Tribune. The public hearing was noticed on March 5th and again on March 12th. So everything is in order for us to proceed.
Thank you. Opening remarks.
Council, this is for us to reestablish our CCD rate at the max of 5 cents. Our current CCD rate is 0.0483. So this is to establish it for 2021 taxes payable in 2022. We are on a time frame here. Upon approval, I'll notice the adoption and then begins a 30-day remonstrance period. At the conclusion of that, all of the proper paperwork will go down to the DLGF, and usually when we did this in 2019, I think it was mid-May when we received their check off on it for the preceding year.
Thank you. Reading of ordinance 1378. Mr. Sharp, by its title, please.
Ordinance number 1378, an ordinance reestablishing and continuing a cumulative capital development fund, CCDF, for the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you. Are there any remonstrators in favor or against? Any remonstrators? Third call for remonstrators. No remonstrators. Anything online, Jen?
Nope.
Thank you. Town council discussion. Any discussion by the council?
This money will go towards purchasing police and fire vehicles.
All capital equipment. CCD is not just police and fire. We use it for any capital needs necessary.
Mentioned in your police and fire, but it covers.
Well, but bottom line, all other has established an IC code. Traditionally, we use it for police and fire, but if need be for other capital needs, we can use it.
Like street department.
If that's what the council wishes. A lot of that discussion will be coming out of the sustainability report and how we decide to proceed in the future with use of those funds.
I think you're getting at a total patcher, right, Bob?
And they got some other things they're interested in too.
Town council decision on ordinance 1378.
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance number 1378.
Motion by Mr. Foreman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sheehan. Mr. Austin?
President, Bob, there's a list in the statute that provided you to see the extent of that range of opportunities you have.
Okay, thank you.
Roll call vote, please.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julie Rivera,
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Colleen Scheeben.
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Is this, okay, is there a motion, what's that, Dave? Yeah, is there a motion to suspend the rules, allow for a second reading?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Foreman, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Rivera, questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Julie Rivera,
Yes.
Ralph Miller.
Yes.
Colleen Scheeben.
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Mr. Sharp, ordinance 1378 by its title only.
Ordinance number 1378, an ordinance reestablishing and continuing a cumulative capital development fund, CCDF, for the town of Cedar Lake, Lake County, Indiana, and all matters related thereto.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt?
I'd like to make the motion to adopt.
Motion by Mr. Foreman. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sheehan. Questions or discussion on the motion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Julie Rivera,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Colleen Scheeben.
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Randy Niemeyer.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. 1378 is adopted. Public comment on agenda items. Public comment on agenda items. Third call for public comment on agenda items. Public comments closed. Our consent agenda, we're scratching the minutes. They're not prepared. Number 2 is claims, all town funds, $277,605.31. Wastewater operating, $196,433.76. Water utility, $1,224. Stormwater, $9,016.69. And payroll for 3/1/2021 and 3/4/2021 of $322,236.96. Manual journal entries for February 1 through 28, 2021. Is there a motion to accept and waive the reading of the minutes and accept the consent agenda as listed?
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Rivera. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sheehan. Questions or discussion?
Yes, just a comment, we had another huge portion of rock salt purchase, so I just hope those funds are gonna be continuously available to handle that. And the street department did a great job on clearing our roads on our ice storm yesterday.
Thank you, Bob. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman.
Yes.
Julia Rivera,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan,
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Randy Neimeyer.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Ordinances and resolutions, ordinance 1379, 2021, salary ordinance amendment. Mr. Sharp by its title only. Mr. Everly, explanation.
Ordinance number 1379, an ordinance amending town salary ordinance number 1370, establishing jobs and salaries to be paid certain offices, positions, and jobs within the town of Cedar Lake for the calendar year 2021, and repealing all ordinance or parts thereof in conflict therewith.
Thank you. Mr. Everly.
Mr. President, members of the council, this allows us to complete the hiring of the new full-time building inspector, code enforcement inspector. Tony, as you know, is moved from on-call to full-time building inspector. And this provides for his the hourly wage for that position.
Very good. Thank you. Is there a motion by the council to approve the salary ordinance amendment, ordinance 1379?
I make a motion to approve.
Motion by Ms. Rivera. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Miller. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Julia Rivera,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan,
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Randy Neimeyer.
Yes, motion carries 7-0.
Tim, is Tony here? In the room? No, okay.
Dave, since this amendment, does this have to be 2 reading? Okay. Is there a motion to suspend the rules, allow for second reading?
I'd make a motion to suspend the rules, allow for a second reading.
Motion by Mr. Foreman,
I'll second.
second by Ms. Sheehan. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Julia Rivera,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan,
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Randy Neimeyer.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Ordinance 1379, second reading by its title only. Mr. Sharp.
An ordinance amending town salary ordinance number 1370, establishing jobs and salaries to be paid certain offices, positions, and jobs within the town of Cedar Lake for the calendar year 2021, and repealing all ordinances or parts thereof in conflict therewith.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt?
I'll make the motion to.
Motion by Mr. Miller. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ms. Sheehan. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Julia Rivera,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan,
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Randy Neimeyer.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. New business, item 1 is Woods of Cedar Creek Stormwater Project Change Order Number 1. Mr. Everly?
Mr. President, this was considered by the Stormwater Board at its recent meeting and got its recommendation for this increase. It was a $1,002 increase to that project. So it comes to you with a recommendation that it be approved and paid for at your level.
Thank you. We have a recommendation from the Stormwater Board for approval of the change order number 1 to the Woods of Cedar Creek project. Is there a motion by the
So
council?
moved.
Motion by Mr. Carnahan,
I'll second it.
second by Mr. Miller. Questions or discussion? Roll call.
Robert Carnahan,
Yes.
John Foreman,
Yes.
Julia Rivera,
Yes.
Ralph Miller,
Yes.
Colleen Sheehan,
Yes.
Richard Sharp,
Yes.
Randy Neimeyer.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Item 2 is a the 2021 garbage and recycling contract discussion. I asked Mr. Everly in our conversation last Thursday to put this on the agenda as a discussion item, as a way to make sure that the council has an opportunity to fully vet the contract proposal in front of us and kind of plan this thing out. The one vendor that submitted a proposal was Republic Services. We have Doug Rosenbaum here with us tonight. And that was a 6-year contract, I believe.
Well, you solicited a 2-year contract with up to 6-year
Correct.
option to be determined. So, yeah.
Yeah, so what we had in front of us in a proposal was up to that 6-year mark, with yearly increases. So page 8 of your packet goes over what that 6-year looks like, with 2 different options: one weekly recycling pickup, the other every other week recycling. And I believe in last year, after Jill Murr and I had met with Mr. Rosenbaum, we had discussed going to the every other week recycling as a way to cut some cost and go to the bigger totes, so that more can be accumulated and less trips be made to the benefit of the customers. So in the conversation with Mr. Everly, one of the things that we have had in place here for some time is a slight, so we charge $17 right now to our customers. And I believe the rate is in the 14s somewhere.
1426, 20 to 28, 1420s, yes.
So there's a little bit of excess in there, and that fund was established as a way to upkeep roads, because garbage trucks aren't small anymore. They're very large trucks. Fully loaded, what's the tonnage on that with the truck and garbage?
56,000 pounds, the bigger one is about 48.
Right, so you're looking at 28 tons on these roads, and there's really no way around that. The smaller trucks are not feasible to run anymore. It's been pretty widely publicized that there's not an overabundance of truck drivers out in the marketplace, whether you're in garbage or any other industry. So efficient collections necessary.
Google's working on that problem, Randy.
Yeah, they'll have that solved.
Soon.
Okay, I'm interested to learn.
Apple is too.
Oh, okay. How many trucks have they
Should be able to
run?
help you out.
How
Should be
many-
able to help you out.
How many trucks do they own, John?
Coming your way, baby.
Yeah, okay. Nonetheless, so one of the things Rick and I discussed in our pre-meeting discussion was looking at ways to keep costs predictable for our customers. So $17 a month is what everybody expected over the last several years. Obviously, with this, if we kept it at that, we would be running out of money in that fund very quickly. So there's going to need to be an increase in the monthly charge. And what the council will need to consider is where we want that increase to land. Because if you look at the escalators by year 3 of this proposal, let's say we went to a $20 a month charge, we would be over that $20 a month. And again, the purpose of creating that little bit of excess in the fund was for some road maintenance, because of the heavier trucks on the streets, and we're always limited as to how much we have available to do some of that maintenance work. So that fund has been very helpful to this point. So being that we only have one real contract proposal with 2 options, the thing that we have to look at is how do we structure this internally to be able to create predictability for our customers and minimal price increases that they see on their bills. So looking at this, year 1 of the biweekly recycling is $18.90. Year 2 is $19.47. Year 3 is $20.25. Year 4 is $21.06. Year 5 is $21.90, and year 6 is $22.77. So that's kind of the gist of what we need to discuss as a council, is how do we structure this over the life of the contract to make sure that we're not creating confusion on a yearly basis with our rates that our customers are charged.
Right. I would say that if we did do the every other week recycling, that the recycling containers would probably have to be replaced with larger ones.
Yeah,
I'm
that-
not sure, do you do bi-weekly recycling in any other?
Hey,
cities?
Doug, could you come forward so people online can hear you?
They do. It is in the contract, Mr. Foreman, that
Okay,
if you choose the bi-weekly option,
right,
Republic will be providing 96-gallon totes for the recycling, and that
Okay.
is included in the price that you see here. And they do bi-weekly pickup, recycling pickup in other communities.
The majority, I'd say about 75% are on bi-weekly and 25% are still on.
I see.
Northwest Indiana.
And we would keep with Mondays as our pickup day?
Correct.
Okay.
The biggest question on bi-weekly is how we provide that service for Carter County this week, Carter County
Okay.
next week, we would provide a map.
Right,
And a calendar schedule, how like this half green, this half yellow.
got it.
So the places would know what we do.
If there were additional totes needed for recycling, how could those be acquired and what would that cost to a customer?
So in general, if pure recycling, we don't have too many that require more than 96. If it's minimal amount, we provide those for them.
Okay.
If it's something that's out of hand, it's something we have to charge to the customer.
Would we be, I suppose maybe a small unit is fine for retired couples that don't have kids and keeping the small perhaps, but I guess what was the plan, Rick? Was it to swap them all out and then you guys take the old ones and grind them down and recycle them? Or do you just drop off large ones to people that want them?
So in general, we would, so the contract with all of us is deliver 96 to everyone. Some people may prefer to keep a 35.
Okay.
And realistically, we don't have use for 35. There's not too many people that use 35 gallon. I would actually talk to the town and kind of let the other two accounts they can keep. We have 35, they want to use it extra
Mhm.
or something that they want to cart around their house or garage or whatever.
I see.
Or we just make a standard that we're going to pick them all up. And then we have some customers that are playing back rather than have the 35. And we can do that either way.
Right.
But realistically, yes, we would pick them up and then we would basically do it for recycling.
So if somebody takes the 35 and sticks it inside their garbage can the following week, does that mean you guys will dump it in your truck or no?
Yes.
Okay,
It's not-
because I envision that probably
I
happening.
envision that happening all the time. So,
Okay,
yes, from that standpoint, it won't get recycled.
Right. Landfill. Okay.
So a question I have for you, Doug, is looking at this and again, I can't speak for the whole council, but looking at like the bi-weekly, by year 3, we would, let's say, for instance, the council decided we wanted to go with a $20 a month charge, which would create a little bit of margin the first 2 years, but then create a need to subsidize the third year. Would it be possible in a contract like this to go with 20 even on the third year and add that 25 cents to the fourth year when we reestablish a new rate? And that way, first 3 years would be, the same rate without the town having to subsidize it. And then the last 3 years would be a new rate that we would charge, but you could add that charge from year 3 onto year 4.
So the first question that I will ask from that is, the contract right now is a 2 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. So
Mhm.
anything that would involve 3 would say, hey, is there a guarantee on the first 3 years? And then put in the option years of year 4,
Mhm.
or is it by going to 4 year 2, we get a guarantee on 4 years? That would be the first question that comes down from me, from that type of thing. If there's anything else that you want me to look into, I can definitely get back to the response.
I'd like to see you look into that to see if that would be a feasible way to structure this as a way to create that predictability for our customers and keep a little bit of a balance in that fund so we can do the repairs that we need to do. And we're taking smaller bites when it comes to rate increases rather than big leaps. So
And I don't know, so I'll ask the attorney from the standpoint of that, so you can, you can get the locking of the 3 years slow back. I'm sorry. That's it, well. Yeah, so I'd ask Mr. Meyer, if you could send that email with like kind of what you're looking for, and I can definitely get a response back, and I can get discuss this as a council.
Okay, that sounds
I would
fair.
like to see that, yes, yeah.
Any other council discussion questions for Mr. Rosenbaum?
One, so I just want to be a little bit clear, we're basically looking to keep it at 20 and under for the first 3 years, and then look at the fourth, fifth, sixth.
Yeah.
Yeah, distribute that extra 25 cents from that third year into the fourth is what I think Randy said.
Yeah, and that way, you set a rate now for years 1, 2, and 3, and you stick with it. And
That
then
makes sense.
for years 4, 5, and 6 is a
We
different rate
establish
that
it.
we would charge. So,
Right, that way we're not collecting enough to cover it all right now and growing a fund that is somewhat artificially growing
so
it.
yeah, so it gives you, it creates a situation where you don't have to subsidize the rate,
Right.
but you also don't have to hit the customers with new rates every year.
So is most of the council fine with biweekly then on the recycling?
Yeah,
I'm-
if 75% of Lake County is doing bi-weekly.
Yeah,
then
yeah.
See why we're doing it.
So now we also, because it's a guaranteed 3-year, it may not be the full order, that's 20 cents. In case you use it for rate model. And one thing I will ask the council, realistically, is it takes me about 6 to 6.5 weeks to get the cans ordered.
Okay.
Put on the street and delivered to everybody in the community, and I can't do that until it's actually a signed contract.
So you want
Makes
this
sense.
contract signed about 4 weeks ahead of time then?
Only if you want them delivered 2 weeks ago.
Oh, come on, Doug.
So they just, that's about the time, it's about 6 weeks, we have orders picked up and delivered to every household, so if you keep that time frame in mind, it's still, that's good.
Should be fine.
90, yeah. You got something that is exactly, a real time.
Summarize what I think you want him to be looking at when it comes back.
I want to look at a contract into at least the 4th year, and being able to not charge anything over 20 in that first 3 years, and then roll that, any extra charge from the 3rd year into the 4th year when we reestablish kind of a new going forward look at it.
Mr. Austin might comment on this because of the guarantee 3 versus the current guarantee 2. That is probably won't be a full, probably won't be a full quarter that third year contract actually used that quarter.
Could be less than that,
Yeah. I don't know
Okay.
that number.
Okay.
because it's 3 years as opposed to 2.
How we make it a flat year. And we're expecting to be $20, years 1, 2, and 3.
Based,
It's gonna be
Our charge to the.
our
resident,
charge to the customers, not his charge to
Not
us.
not his charge to us.
Oh, I got you.
His charge to us would be
I'm
these
talking about
numbers.
our charges to our customers. Like right now, we're at 17 and we're actually paying 14 and a little over 14 and a quarter. So what I want to do is, right, so if they can help us stay under that $20 benchmark or add it by that 3rd year, then we could look at extending that contract a little longer as a way to create mutual benefit and be able to make our rates that we charge our people a little more predictable.
Yeah.
I think I know what you want to say.
Okay.
So years 1 and 2 would remain what they are. Year 3 would be 20 even.
Right.
You would
Yes.
add the quarter.
Or
to-
less.
It might be less
If
because it's
that
guaranteed.
3-year
Yeah.
contract helps to create some benefit for Republic, if there's a little wiggle room, then obviously that's
We'll
something
take
that
it.
we would like.
Yeah.
So now let's actually talk about that 4th year, probably be that adjustment. Wherever-
Correct.
Wherever, yeah.
Right, you can say that, hey, we want it to be 1995, and how that just gonna fluctuate that 4th year a little bit, but because of the 3-year lock. it may not fluctuate that.
Okay. Well, that sounds
But I
reasonable.
understand.
Okay.
Right.
So,
If you'd like to get that back to the river,
yeah, that'd be great. And that way we can, the council can circulate it, consider it, and be ready to move forward on a contract so we can get the totes in time. When is the expiration of the current
June
deal?
1st.
June 1st. So
Right.
we need to have this done
April 15th.
probably at our next council meeting would be best. That gives us a little bit of breathing room if something goes awry in a meeting. And
That gives us 3 weeks. It's April 6th, so the next meeting, right?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
April 6th, so we have an extra week this month, so. I'll put this on your agenda for action on the
In 3
contract
weeks.
on April 6th.
Okay, and is that enough time for you to get those details together?
working with the owners, with
Okay.
the officers, contract, but prior to that. Exactly. So you guys voted on the 6th, and then you guys get the contract back before you have signatures. You have to, how you sign it 2 weeks later or next week.
Well, if we voted on the 6th, we'd sign it on the 6th.
Okay, so we got the contract drafted. That won't be a problem.
Yeah, that's all we really need.
Yep.
Is this new
Yeah,
RFQ.
you work on that stuff, the contract will be easy and we'll nail it down and move forward. That way we don't have piles of garbage in the town.
We won't let that
Yep.
happen. We're going to start with this.
Thanks, Doug.
Thank you, thank you.
Council, any more questions for Mr. Rosenbaum before he takes off?
No, thank you for coming.
Thanks again, Doug.
Thank
Appreciate it. Item 3 is the American Rescue Plan discussion. Again, another discussion item. I happened to be at the gym the other night when Mr. Salatas from Lowell, council president, reached out to me to inform me that Cedar Lake was the recipient of, I call an earmarked 2.75 million from the federal government in the American Rescue Plan. I was very confused, as most of you could imagine, of what is this for? Why are we getting this? How do we use it? And so Rick and I had that same discussion. And Rick, have you been able to glean anything of how it's supposed to be used or invested?
Well, it can be used for, as he says in the letter, actually, there's a brief description here, but among other things, I'm sorry, at the bottom of page 9, with these federal funds, municipalities and counties in our district will be able to address the economic effect of COVID-19 public health emergency, reinitiate government services that have been scaled back due to revenue shortfalls, and provide premium pay to essential workers. I downloaded the actual bill itself late this afternoon and just scanned it. Once the state gets the money, it is supposed to distribute it to the local municipalities within 30 days, but it also has an option of getting extensions to those distributions to the local municipalities, and it also has an option of only giving us 50% first time, and I believe the balance the second. But I was looking for some more definition of that, Mr. President, in terms of what we can specifically use that for. And I just didn't have time to digest it all before tonight's meeting, so I'll do that as soon as I get a chance. As you can imagine, it's a lengthy bill, part of the $1.9 trillion legislation.
And again, out of that 1.9 trillion, only 9% went to people. So just remember that.
Right.
And I also
Insanity.
called Mr. Everly today and asked him what we could spend this on, and he wasn't quite sure, and he's researching it. And I also see in here the figures that Crown Point Community School is getting $4,113,000, and Hanover School is getting $1,006,000. But these are huge amounts of money, and this is money they're dishing out, and eventually somebody's going to have to pay this stuff back.
Bob, in California, the teachers union has circulated an internal memo talking about how nice it would be to go to Hawaii with this money. So
They're taking a vacation.
very responsible stuff that's going on.
But
Let's go.
Did you say rescue in the bill? Like rescue equipment?
I did call
No, but it does say public health emergency of bad water, Todd.
What?
The bad water that causes harm to people's lungs.
So
Look in the lake.
looking at this thing, just for the public, if you haven't seen some of this, to highlight some things like Bob did, if you look at the municipalities that are getting money, and this will kind of tell you exactly what this is. It's kind of a bailout for very bad government. The city of Gary is getting $83,660,000. The school city of Gary the school corporation is getting $95,010,000, and they have one public high school.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, everything's closed.
It's just crazy.
City of Hammond will receive 53,270,000. So I don't know how they came up with how to distribute it, because Hammond is the largest city in Lake County and yet is getting nearly half of what Gary's getting. Then if you look at the Hammond School Corporation is getting about half of what Gary's getting. So
Yeah.
this is purely a political bailout of, I guess, returning favors. It's I don't even know what to say about this thing, other than if this is money that we get and we have to use, my thought would be is we're going to have an economic recession from this, like Bob said, we're just going to.
For sure.
Inflation's going to hit at some point. And I know modern monetary theory says that all money's nothing. Okay. But I still don't believe that whatever it's invested in, whatever we can invest it in, probably needs to be something that has a long-term impact, so that somewhere down the road, we don't have to spend money we don't have. If you get what I'm saying,
It
it's
has to be sustainable.
something that instead of a one-time, hey, let's spend the money, if you invest in something capital in nature, you might have something 20 years from now that if you have a terrible economic condition and you can't tax because there's no AV and the revenues are decreased, at least you have a piece of capital there that helps to provide the basic services of government. Because I don't think we'll see the impact of this COVID-19 for probably a couple of years, and the impact of this incredible amount of government waste for a couple of years. And who knows how this is all going to look when we get there. But if we have to use this money, it'd be smart to use it for something that creates kind of a foundational piece from a capital standpoint that helps to provide basic services even in the worst of times. So that's just my thought pattern initially. I just don't know what the heck we can use it for, or what we're supposed to use it for.
Right,
It's very vague in that statement there.
right. So we'll try to, I did put a call into Congressman Mervan's office today as well to see if they could lend some sort of explanation on this, and they're going to get back to me on that. But in the meantime, I'll try to digest that bill as well.
I mean, these three counties are 140 million. We have 89 more counties in the state of Indiana. It's absurd.
But Lake County.
And that's just
Lake-
county, not
listen,
schools.
Lake County itself would be receiving 94,160,000.
It's unfathomable.
And last time I checked, the county levied an income tax, on all of us.
1%.
And since then, their budgets have been pretty flush with money. They haven't been struggling to
Yeah.
pay their bills. I haven't heard of any austerity measures being taken at Lake County, nor have there been any here.
A lot of money.
So it's one of these
Ridiculous.
things that, do we need it today? Probably not. And really, the states were the ones that came up with the mandates of closing businesses, closing certain things that created some tax revenue shortfalls, although the state of Indiana has now come out and shown that they're not going to have any revenue shortfall. So that's a pretty interesting bit of information too. This is mind-boggling to see these numbers. And when Chris Salata sent this to me, I was blown away, disgusted, confused, just didn't know what to think about any of it anymore, because it's totally ridiculous, especially considering out of the first $2.2 billion package, there's still 600 or 2.2 trillion. There's
It's
still
almost a trillion.
Yeah, there's
Still,
there's almost $1
not-
trillion that haven't been spent
That's
from
right.
that.
yeah, it was ridiculous.
And now you got another 1.9 trillion, and it's just massive amounts of welfare to poorly run governments. Illinois is receiving 13.6 billion, New York 24 billion, California over 40 billion. And one of the reasons that you didn't hear a lot of outcry from the AFL-CIO and big unions with the shutdown of the Keystone Pipeline was because the unions' pension funds are getting 86 billion out of this. So there's a lot of political payoffs going on with all of this stuff, and it's pretty damn disgusting.
Scary.
I don't even know what to think anymore with this garbage, but Rick, figure this out if you can.
Let us know.
Good luck. And council, when it is figured out what to do with it, let's think about a responsible way that we can make sure that this is actually used to protect our taxpayers when the bill needs to be paid, because it'll need to be paid.
Yeah, we want to be holding the money.
You want the money.
But who knows if we can even do that with it?
Don't know.
Yeah.
That's,
That's
yeah.
the point, but you have a couple of places.
John wants to drown it. I know that.
I don't want to drown.
For sure.
Yeah, John and I discussed there might be some COVID in the lake.
There's a lot of
Oh, yeah,
bacteria
here
that
we go.
affects people's lungs.
I agree.
Really not good with
Might be
COVID.
some COVID contaminated water in that lake.
I just see 4 boats suspended on the lake.
But nonetheless, it's here for discussion.
Mhm.
Everybody sitting up here, we're going to be faced with some decisions on this. And like I say, I don't even know. It's so hard to even wrap my head around some of this stuff at this point. I don't even know what to say. Other than, holy crap, when is this bill coming due?
For Social Security.
Yeah, it'll be, yeah, check the deposit.
Well,
Dan.
as Mitch Daniels famously said, you get all the crummy government you vote for. This is the crummy government that
That's
people
what,
voted
that's what he
for. So
said, you know.
it is what it is. Okay,
Moving on.
any other discussion on this item by the council? We will wait for some direction on utilization of funds. Reports, town council? Bob, you want, wait.
Go ahead, Bob.
yeah, Bob always has the floor first.
Okay, go ahead, Bob.
No, you go ahead, I'll pass. I'm
Okay.
gonna
You
take
sure?
it here.
Oh, yeah, I had a couple things. One, I received an email. I was on out of town last week, and Yvonne Elvey, I had tried calling her back, and the question is maybe more pertinent towards Mr. Austrian. Do we have any ordinance that states a person has to bring his or her garbage can in from the road?
That's a good question. Rick and I just exchanged communications about that. No, that's really your call in the contract. I don't think there's an ordinance. No.
Apparently, she lives off, I think, Klein 127th, and she had wanted me to give her a call. And when I called, and it just like disconnected. But long story short, I think that's something that we should consider because we are a lake community. A lot of people leave on Sunday night. It should be their responsibility to have somebody take their garbage cans in and not let the neighbors look at.
There's
These
some
things.
HOA areas that have requirements,
Uh-huh.
but the town ordinance itself doesn't have one that has to come in, because a lot of people leave it out by the road the whole time and take their garbage out to the road. Or you're gonna get a lot of this because of the influx of people coming out of Illinois that have all these restrictions in their previous communities. So we get a lot of these calls anyways of, hey, do you have this, do you have this? This is what we had in my previous community, so that's one of them. Is the
And if,
ordinance against having your garbage cans out past a certain time from the pickup day. Yeah,
it's probably hard to enforce. I'm not one to make more rules for people that own houses, et cetera, but if we don't adopt an ordinance, at least we should do a draft letter and drop it off at these constant,
it could be done in your newsletter and you ask folks
yeah.
voluntarily.
Maybe we try that first and see what kind of reception we get. But I don't know what the rest of the council feels about that, something to ponder. And then also, Mr. Eberly, I believe that the gentleman that owns a tire shop, All Tire, I feel as though that subject matter is similar to a guy wanted to build a garage, and at the plan commission, we all said, hey, well, you got to build a sidewalk in front, because we were thinking, hey, it's a brand new lot, it's a brand new situation, and you got to abide by all of our new, all of the subdivision control ordinance.
What is this about, John?
And All Tire is trying to
All-Tire,
add a couple
Jeff
bays
Fraze,
onto the east side of his facility. And we're trying to adopt, like if somebody were to be buying a green field and building a brand new facility, and I feel like we as a council need to work with these existing non-conforming buildings and property owners to try to promote business and move things forward in a quickly manner. One situation that did arise, the gentleman that owns Seal Vending, this is a good example. He was trying to put a refrigerator or something on the backside of the building, and it delayed and delayed. And then finally he aborted that idea and had to remove a renter that he had. So we lost a business owner here now in the community. And I just would hate to see any business owner have to leave because he or she, have to abide by the new subdivision control ordinance for something that's existing. And I don't even think he's non-conforming if he wanted to add that on. I went and checked it out on Saturday. So it seems pretty logical. And that's about all I know. And he did send me a letter, Rick, that I think was sent out to him. I don't remember this at the plan commission, so maybe it went to BZA. I'm not quite sure.
I never heard it at either place.
Okay.
No, it hasn't come to either place. Actually, Mr. Henn owns the property.
Okay.
There are 3 different businesses on, I believe there are 3 meets and bounds parcels. So they're not platted properties. This gentleman who owns this business wants to add on 2 bays, as you mentioned, to
Right.
his building. That puts him in the position of having to now, before he can get a building permit, he's got to plat the property. Mr.
Right.
Henn has to do that as the owner of the property. Jill and Michelle and I don't think Tim was in that meeting. Jill, Michelle, and I met with Mr. Henn's engineer to talk about the things that he needed to do, which is just about the same thing that Mr. Henn is doing with the Guard laundry, the old laundry building, and what Rory Ravens had to do up at CL Bending. It's when you're putting an addition on a piece of property that is not a platted property, you've got to plat the property. You got to make it a 1-lot subdivision. So now he's got to come for subdivision approval, site plan approval, and he's going to need some variances depending on some options that he takes. If he plats it as a 2-lot subdivision, he's going to wind up with 2 businesses and 2 primary structures on 1 lot. That requires a variance. If he does as a 1-lot subdivision, then he's got the same variances because he's got multiple primary structures and multiple businesses on 1 lot. So it's our regulations that are requiring him to do these things. And I spoke to Mr. Henn about it, and Mr. Henn said he's not going to go through the process because he knows it's going to cost him a certain amount of money. He's going to have to increase Mr. Fraze's rent.
Right.
And he doesn't want to do that to him. So they're kind of stuck, but it's our regulations that make him go through this process. And I spoke to Mr. Fraze a couple of times today, most recently, and I expressed that I sympathize with him, but these are our rules that are causing him to go through this process
Right.
in order to do an expansion.
Dave, could we overrule it as the town council?
No. No.
Yeah.
Exclusive jurisdiction over plats and subdivision are just the planning commission. And Rick's right about our rule. That's exactly what we have to work with. The one thing that might be considered though, if there's a solution to everything, including this, is that a relatively simple subdivision plat be created. And that would require the property owners to petition and do that. And that there'd be a waiver of a substantial amount of items. So that, this is Old Cedar Lake, right?
Right. That's kind of my point.
You know, I started, my analysis of it was, is this New Cedar Lake or this Old Cedar Lake?
Right.
Being Old Cedar Lake, you know, we're never gonna get it right without some assessment of how to make the rules work and not make the rules not work.
Well, I mean,
I've been waiting for this to happen for about a month.
there's so many examples of this, not necessarily commercial, mostly residential.
Yeah.
And that's why in that zoning ordinance that the plan commission will be considering,
Right.
will need to include overlays. And I talked to Jeff Fraze about that today. Unfortunately, we don't have that in our policy today. So our policy is what Rick said it is. Okay. And if there were overlays for these sorts of things that address some of the old stuff before the subdivision control ordinance, for these meets and bounds properties, then this would be a pretty simple thing to do. But unfortunately, our policy is what it is. And we need to figure out a way to still get to the end game where Mr. Fraze or whoever a business owner is or a property owner of these sorts of properties can still utilize their property and make improvements to it. Because right now, it's cost prohibitive to the point where, you know, a tire business is not a huge margin business. Those sorts of costs to make those improvements, Jeff would be in a different town.
Right. And that's kind of what
Just
I'm.
gone, and
that's-
there'll be a vacant
And
building.
he came from Low to Cedar Lake. He
Yeah.
was operating in Low. He came to Cedar Lake, but there's no way we could just allow him to build those 2 bays.
So David, if we did a simple subdivision plat, meaning make the meets and bounds go away. Okay,
And then there would need to be numerous waivers requested.
Right.
It'd be 2 lots.
And a variance.
yeah, it still has to go to BZA.
But
The property owner has to do something. He can't sit there and look at the town to go and wave a line.
Right.
Right.
So.
Okay.
That property owner, Mr. Hen, needs to.
You got some notes there, John? You
I
can communicate
do.
with,
And in that area, there's not
Yeah, I
any
do.
stormwater issues or anything with that property, so.
Well, no,
that's-
yeah, in fact, where it's going to be built is already existing concrete. So
right.
it's
Yeah,
already,
it's
it's already
impervious
non-pervious surface. So there's
Already
really
impervious,
no,
yeah. But his property is not a legal conforming lot, so he would need a variance for lot width
I
for
see.
starters. And then, like Dave said, they could ask for a waiver from the sidewalk requirement.
gotcha.
The Plan Commission hasn't been real favorable about that. What Mr. Fraze was concerned about was that there's a bunch of ifs in this process, and they could go through this process and get turned down. And
Right.
I said, well, yes, I can't tell you you're gonna get approved.
Right.
And of course, he can't do it. It has to be Mr. Hen that does it as the property owner. Mr. Hen could give him power of attorney, as Dave knows, to
Mr. Hen
pursue
needs
it.
to be here. He's the owner. It needs to be that way so there are no liabilities on the backside. Someone, Mr. Fraze noted that.
I feel for Jeff on this because he's an entrepreneur trying to make a living and has opportunities to expand his business to secure that living and provide better service. And he provides a great service to a lot of businesses. And now he's sitting here on this choke point.
And he's even storing cars for the body shop across the way when they're exotic cars being reworked. So he's even a good neighbor on top of everything
He's
else.
a 56-year resident of Cedar Lake.
Yes.
Right.
So, I mean, this is one of our neighbors here we're talking about. So
But we have these existing non-conforming businesses, just like homes, Randy. And I think you're right. As a part of the Plan Commission, we do need to create a simpler way, because if you string something out for a year, economic conditions can change and all your investment goes down the tubes. I mean, you got to move quickly and rapidly and be in business. You can't mess around, right? So this taking a year for these things to work out and then be told no is brutal. If we could come up with the Plan Commission to create this somewhat of a overlay for, what'd you call it, David? Old Cedar Lake? Rather than new? I think that makes sense. Yeah.
And we've had discussion over this for years, that in an old subdivision, if they don't have the requirements to rebuild after a fire or something, we've talked about granting them permission to do that.
Well, we're sort of working on that with the
Yeah.
Plan Commission now, so.
right, but currently, there's nothing in the policy that allows it. So if it's not specifically spelled out,
That's true, but it is actually. It is in the sense of a replat or a plat application with boundary, with a waiver of technical requirements, with the variance for side yard, which would go hand in glove with a public hearing on a plat. Two different bodies, but it would, within a week of each other, they'd be held. You're down the path 65, 70 days.
I think this also begs to, let's get this, these documents, the zoning ordinance and the subdivision control, let's get this stuff done. Because
Yeah, we're close.
We've been working on it for years now.
Way too many.
And
FYI,
this needs to be
Council,
done.
It is being worked on. Rick and his team,
I understand.
You've had a lot of things come to this town in the last 3 months. You've had schools, you've had buildings, you've had projects.
I just hope this remains a priority because it's something that's so sorely needed.
I know it is. Internally, I know it is.
Yeah.
But David, if a person had a meets and bounds parcel, came to the Plan Commission, couldn't they allow it?
No,
It takes a change to the zoning ordinance.
legally, no.
Okay.
If you change the zoning ordinance to no longer require that a meets and bounds parcel needs to get platted before it gets a permit, then you can do that. I mean, that's a fairly simple change to the zoning ordinance, but I don't think you want to do that. You
It's
want
not
land use
advisable.
control.
I agree with Rick. It's not advisable to take that out.
Yeah, I know you need to plat.
Lots of record and look
Yeah.
for the orderly development, the orderly progression of.
So to summarize, Dave, you think there's kind of a happy medium where there's some skin in the game by Mr. Hen, right? And there's also an opportunity through our processes to grant some waivers to make this a sensible solution.
There's no question in my mind.
Okay. That sounds pretty fair to me.
Yeah, it does.
John, were you talking to Greg Parker about this?
No, I was in Sear Lake Kitchen Saturday morning, and this gentleman happened to ask me to stop over after I got done eating breakfast, so I did. And but to answer your question, I did also speak to Greg tonight about it. We just touched on it briefly.
I've known
He's
Jeff for
probably
years.
livid over this.
Oh yeah, I don't. Yeah,
He was very.
we're trying to
calm.
work a common sense solution out. That's all.
Yeah, Jeff was very calm and matter of fact in conversation. There was nothing terse said about anything. It was just, he's trying to run a business and expand a business, and he's running into a brick wall right now, and he wants to figure out how to get through it, or if he has to move.
Right. It's just that simple.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We don't want him moving.
No, because he moved from low to here, and I'd hate to lose him.
Yep.
So that's all I had, Mr. President. Thank you.
Bob,
All right. We paved roads last year, and the more I drive on those paved roads that we did with the heat scarification, and then we put an overlay, there are a lot of cracks all over town. I noticed some when I went up past Shane's Bar today. There's some in there. There's some down here. Every time I look, I'm finding some new ones. And I had some discussion about, is there a warranty or something to cover that with these roads cracking open?
There's a 1-year warranty on the product, yes.
So are we pursuing anything?
The engineer has been out to see some of those areas, and he's going back out to review others. We had a concern sent to us by email, I think yesterday, that turned out to be from our scraping of some pavement from our snow plows, and that's really what, in some of the cases that you, the areas that you had reported to me, Bob, Don Oliphant had gone out and looked at it, and he thought that was some snowplow damage too. But he did say he saw some cracking like you did. But he said, we do have a 1-year warranty on that, and he is still looking. He's gonna inspect the entirety of that project and report back to us.
Bob, that's a good catch. You got your eyes open.
That's old Cedar Lake.
That's old Sear
I just
Lake.
don't like we paid a lot of money, and hopefully we're gonna have nice roads for our citizens to drive on, and then we start finding cracks, and that's too early.
Yeah, this winter was rough on roads too, with very cold weather and a lot of snow, and then the warm up that we had
There's not a
was
ton of,
never
there's not
easy.
a ton of cracked spots. I mean, there's a few. And I think they're basically due to subgrade conditions, not anything else. So the warranty probably is going to be minimal, but I mean, we tried getting to most of those settling spots when we went through, but that's the chance that you do when you do the heat scarification, the overlay. We pick them worst spots and cut them out and patch them and level them, and then ultimately repave over them. So those couple little places like by Shane's and are places that didn't get that extra step done to them. That's why they're.
Well, the other time we did the heat scarification, I never noticed anything like this.
You weren't looking this close.
Well, I never noticed them, and I noticed them now. And another thing, 133rd on the west side and 133rd on the east side. We're going to have to do some extensive crack sealing. And
also the concrete around the sewer manholes also.
right, especially on the west side there. We had discussion over, I know we bought a crack sealer, but we had some discussion about hiring it out because it does take a lot of people to do crack sealing. And would you say it's, recommend us contracting it out or trying to do it ourselves? Because Now we got,
I would love to get some help to do it, Bob, but we don't have the money in the budgets to do that, so I would say.
yeah, but if we don't do something to those roads, that's our problem. We haven't maintained these roads over the years, and we end up losing what we put into them if we don't maintain them.
We're gonna be crack sealing here now, so
And then,
we're gonna get done with what we can, and I would be all for hiring some of it out if it was a possibility. There's only so, like you said, there's so much we can do with one machine. It takes a decent sized crew, but we have people to do it and get some done, but by no means can we do it all.
and now we go further to the east on 133rd where the county stopped their paving. And Don Oliphant says that is now, we're getting tax dollars for that road and the county isn't. And it's starting to fall apart. All right, I've been
You're all full of crap, sir.
yeah.
Bob, thank you. Colleen?
Yeah, I did receive a letter from Zach Stetson. He lives at 6707 West 142nd Place in Deerview subdivision. He says back when they moved into the newly constructed house in 2018, he alerted the city that there are no streetlights on the very last road and cul-de-sac just past their house at the intersection of 142nd Place and Fairbanks. He says the Hall brothers have completed several houses after theirs and have 3 more on their agenda with 1 currently in progress. Therefore, his point is there are currently around 10 new houses in a completely unlit area. They've had several suspicious vehicle calls over there in the last year, 2 instances of vandalism and theft of property, the newest one being last night. In December, several neighbors' property was stolen, hundreds of dollars worth of Christmas inflatables were popped. Last night in his yard, stakes were stolen out of his yard, and the Hall brothers' porta potty was tipped over, and another neighbor's inflatable was popped again. So I guess they're just looking to see. It sounds like streetlights went into the subdivision originally, but in the areas that weren't finished, where there weren't houses, they didn't continue on. I assume, Bill, you've maybe been over there, heard some of those complaints?
Well, we've had streetlight issues for some time. Last, or 2 years ago, when Jill was the town administrator, we went through the town to go and look at locations that had lights that weren't needed and to try to move them around, because my understanding was we only get so many lights. That was my understanding due to the cost of them.
Okay.
So we went and I had my code enforcement officer go around the whole town and find all the lights and check the areas in which we can move them from one spot to another. I have not been back in the Deerview area, but I know what the area that they're talking about.
Okay.
So I don't know if it was because it took so long to complete that section of Deerview
Sure.
as to why streetlights weren't put in originally.
Right.
Did it go bankrupt, I think, in 2008 and 9? I think so.
The Hall brothers are not the original.
That's right.
I know that.
Yep.
But Ralph Miller and I had discussion with Jill about getting some streetlights in other locations. And it was my understanding, and hopefully yours too, Ralph, that we went from the old lighting system to LEDs, and our costs went down drastically.
Right.
And we were supposed to have some extra money in there to put other streetlights up.
She was supposed to add more streetlights.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah. And
maybe
it's-
we
the
can
money's
pick up
somewhere.
on that.
I'm
Maybe-
not sure why it came to me, because we don't regulate the streetlights. in the
Right.
police
Yeah, I
side.
don't.
I just had my code enforcement officer go around and look at where the streetlights were on behalf of Jill, because she needed someone to do it at nighttime.
Okay.
And see where we were lacking.
Lacking.
There's a lot of spots around town that we were lacking. So we put that list together. I gave it to her last year. It was before Rick was here, so.
I've had the conversation with Officer Machak as well on some of the other subdivisions around that don't have any. And, you know, his take is that the lighting would prevent a lot of the problems that we have in some of the areas.
Sure.
So I don't know, maybe we can look into seeing. if
There should be
there's
money somewhere, Bob. I
Money
think.
somewhere,
Wait a
and
minute,
if they are
let's-
so much less costly than they were.
Streetlights.
Let's back up one step more. Rick, the letter that she just read, That's a new subdivision, right?
Yes, it's an
It's
old,
very
close to
new.
being finished.
it's an
But
old.
what I'm getting at is shouldn't the developer have put those lights in?
Pardon?
Well, they should have in the beginning.
Yeah,
Ralph, but
that's what I'm
that
saying is-
developer's gone.
Shouldn't we go back? Should you give the developer a telephone call?
He's out of business.
He's gone.
Well, the Hall brothers are doing it now?
They just bought
They-
lots.
They're bought, yeah, they bought the lots, they're not the developer, they're building homes
And
there.
they've been going through some pretty extensive stormwater infrastructure improvements in order to build on those lots, because that was lacking tremendously in there also. So first off is to try to do exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
go On them and trying to get them to do that, but as of now, they're putting in some pretty good stormwater infrastructure with each house that's being built out there and take care of tremendous stormwater issues in that neighborhood from that lack of that happening back then. So,
And the storm board did go out there and walk the entire area with the residents.
Jill just texted me and said that she's working on that, and Don, in his report, and she's waiting on review of the lights that can be moved, et cetera. So maybe in 2 weeks we'll have some better information, Colleen.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think we have I think what you're referring to in terms of our costs going down are the LED lights are just less expensive to operate.
Right, top
It's
rate.
not cheaper to install.
No,
So, and we don't have a cap on the number of lights that we can install. We can put in as many as we can afford.
okay.
But we have a budget for a streetlight, I'm sure, a streetlight budget that we pay the operational cost.
We have, out of your general fund, there is a street light line item for maintenance and for the NIPSCO bills.
Right.
And, but I mean, as for install,
But obviously, the more lights we add, the greater our electric bill is for
Sure.
those lights. But it helps that they're LED.
Right.
But this may be, I think there's probably 3, Tim, that need to go in there, because this is a cul-de-sac.
Yeah, I think, and I'm not quite exactly sure where they stopped. I was getting some feed on Colfax there.
Yeah, one at the end of the cul-de-sac, one at the intersection, and then one to the couple hundred feet to the north, probably at least 3 lights there.
And there may even be something in place to get that. Or we have the same issue with Lindsway. There's 3 or 4 lights missing on the
South end of
southwest end of that went bankrupt and went out, and we're trying to get to see if those were paid for. or that were
Right,
involved.
what happened with
We're
them.
trying to track down some of those loose ends and see if there is any way of getting something there, so.
Right,
I think that was part of the reason that we did that survey, to see if there was lights around town because of the budget. Now that I think about it, to see if we can move them around. Lights that were not needed due to maybe a new subdivision went up and there's brand new lights anyways.
right,
or,
so you don't need them.
133rd where we put decorative lighting, can we move some of those lights to different locations, still have the same bill? I
Sure.
think that's what Jill's purpose was behind it, but
Okay,
after we got done with our part, I just gave it over.
But at one point in time, we had a huge NIPSCO bill. We changed over to these LEDs and our cost went down, so we lowered our budget on what we paid for streetlights.
But we paid out of the general fund, didn't we?
Yeah, so
So-
what we may need to do in a future budget is increase that amount so we can cover more streetlights.
well, I think there's a lot of neighborhoods in this town that could
Yeah.
use them, I do. But, you gotta find the money.
Yeah, there's a lot of them that are redundant where there is decorative lights and then lights overhead, and that's where we were starting.
To
trying
try-
those
try to move
are
those.
Right.
Freebies, like you move them to the place that you need it.
Right,
Same cost, you just have it in a better spot.
right.
But I think there's going to be an installation cost to move it from one spot to another.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's any cheaper.
Yeah.
Any other council reports? Town attorney? Clerk treasurer?
council, if I may, I'd like your blessing to move forward in conjunction with Chief Fisher. Part of the 2021 budget included some new police vehicles. Chief Fisher's ready to move forward with the purchase of his vehicles. Thomas Dodge it is, right? Holds the state QPA, so that's where we'd be getting them from. I reached out to various companies for financing, and I received 3 quotes back. Republic First National at 2.93%, Tax Exempt Leasing Corp at 2.55%, and DeMott State Bank at 2.29%. So I would like to go ahead and get the ball rolling with the financing, fill out what I need to with DeMott State Bank, and then get a lease agreement in hand, get that over to David for review. That way we can move forward with this. It would be a 4-year term with semi-annual payments that would fall pretty much in line with our settlements from county.
How many vehicles?
4 vehicles.
So this was all in the budget, right?
Yes, it was part of the plan.
So then maybe for the next council meeting, get us those details. You can move forward with securing these things, right? Because it is in the budget.
It's in the budget.
So it's already approved by the council. And then the next council meeting, we could check off on everything we need to check off on after you've basically done it. So kind
Okay.
of codify it, because I mean, it's already in the budget, just
I
for
just wanted-
transparency's
I
sake.
just wanted to make sure.
For transparency's sake, put in writing what those different financing proposals were. Right, that way the public knows what was out there, and that we sought several quotes on it and took the best one, and away we go.
Okay.
Sounds pretty simple.
Can we move forward? We gotta wait until you do that.
No, you don't have to wait. It's already in
It's
the
in the
budget.
budget.
That's why we approve a budget, right?
Sure.
Let's get the paperwork in.
Yep, get the paperwork in and rock and roll.
There likely will be a resolution
Sure.
for the finance.
We'll be ready to consider it.
All the documents.
And Jen will provide us all the evidence of the quotes that she got, so we'll know that it was competitive and we took the best one. Sounds good.
Okay, that's all.
Thank you.
Town manager,
No report, sir.
director of operations.
I have nothing, but I'd like to say thank you for the building inspector, he was on meeting, so.
Good.
Well,
That's
Hopefully,
49 inspections today,
Wow.
God, help us.
just for a little like.
Jeez.
For
Well,
just today.
March 16th.
I'm happy that, we were able to work this out and make something work, because over these next several years, who knows how long this will last?
Right.
But as long as it does, if we can do it efficiently and do it the right way, hopefully it's a long-term benefit for the town, rather than everybody saying, I wish we'd have done X, Y, or Z. So,
Yeah,
Good
42
news.
building permits in January and 11 in February. So it sounds like March is going to be up.
Bob's right on top of that.
Only 11 in February is better than,
I'm gonna buy
So we got some carryover, huh?
Thank you, Tim. Police Department, Mr. Fisher.
Council, in your packet, you got our February to date incidents and calls for service reports. We're running at about 1,600 calls for service this year, just in January and February alone. We've issued out 119 citations, 194 warnings, 28 total arrests and 62 charges filed, 36 misdemeanor, 13 felonies just for the 2 months. So the guys are working pretty hard, doing their job out there. We did take one of the white trucks that was taken out of service and turned it over to Tim this week. So the new building and code enforcer, building inspector can have a pickup truck to get to all them 39 inspections, whatever he said today. 49 inspections.
That's a lot of work.
It works out really good for the street department and them with that truck. So that's working well. The only other question I have is, we got that grant, are we good to move forward with that? With the 2 other vehicles? So,
We should- We should be, because we also contemplated that within the budget. We've since had discussions about the equipment
Okay.
and where we're going to pay for the excess out of. I mean, if it's a reimbursable grant that we'll be getting. It is the total purchase for the 2 vehicles and the equipment,
67,000.
60, give or take, I believe is what it came down to. So the grant's for 50,000, so that additional, we will have to pay for that cost out of pocket. I have been in talk with Chief Wilkening about where some of that equipment can get paid from.
That was that grant that we got together, right?
Yeah, it was a
Mhm.
50/50 grant.
I remember that.
Originally,
Yeah.
since we were in a pickle in some areas, I was gonna try to give the grant to Chief Wilkening just to fund his car. Then I talked to the grant writer and they said, that's fine, but he'll only get 25,000. Because the grant is written specifically for 2 vehicles. So we went back after it. He's gonna get a Ford Explorer. We're gonna get a Ford Escape, but they're hybrid cars. So it's a new test. That's what the grant is all about, is a hybrid vehicle. The equipment for Chief Wilkening's car is about 17,000. We don't need much because ours is going to code enforcement. So it's gonna be around $1,700 to install, which Cliff said he can knock out. So it won't be that much for our side. But the price of the truck for the fire department is 35,000. Ours was 25 and some change.
Yeah, I remember when that was brought to us and the council unanimously supported it and also supported in the budget, so
So
Oh, yeah.
ready to move forward on it. That was
rock
it.
and roll.
What Ford dealers?
It is a specific dealer out of Benton Harbor. Did I say that right? Benton Harbor? Burns Harbor.
Burns Harbor.
Yeah, it's a
okay.
specific
That's Indiana,
dealership that they're utilizing. The guy's name's Don. The unfortunate part is, what did I say, lead time is 16 weeks. It's 16-week lead time for the vehicle for the Chief Wilkening because of the color. And ours would be, I think it was 14 weeks.
You get paint, Chief? Right, K car?
Most of the vehicles that we're trying to order now, we're trying to get moving on it because the lead time is so long due to all the factories being shut down last year. So they're still trying to catch up. They're not, they're running nonstop and we have a lead time of 12 months right now for ammo, just for practice ammo.
Wow.
It's
They have
that-
a chip problem.
They have a chip problem in some of the vehicles as well due to the factory burning down somehow.
It's impossible to find ammo right now.
So
Ford announced today.
Otherwise,
that
it's a
they just-
fortune.
They're building a new. Ford
Lead is now gold.
F-150,
Yes,
lead
it is.
interceptor package.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, they put up-
Out today.
yeah, we got a video of it. It's pretty neat. So
Pretty nice.
So seriously, Chief, what color did you order?
Red.
Oh,
It's gonna replace the 2009
Tahoe's white,
Tahoe that's
so I
got
was curious.
135,000 miles on it.
right.
I'm not getting that vehicle. That's.
No, I understand. I just thought maybe since your Tahoe was white, you're just making a white.
Well, we bought the Tahoe used as well and.
Good.
We've trucked for quite a few years, but it's.
Absolutely.
other than that, council smoothly. So
How are the new hires coming along?
Officer Dills is starting firearms next week. I'll be out there with her for a little bit with that. She's about halfway through the academy, doing really well.
Awesome.
She texts me pretty regularly, letting me know how she's doing on her scores. And Officer Campster is in his final phase. So he will be finishing up in about 4 more full shifts, full week shifts, and should be eligible to be released on the road, so on his own. So
So I'll give our patrol commander more tools to work with then, right?
that's what we're trying to do. So we're
Good.
really moving fastly with the Lexipol. I mean, very fast. Fast is probably not a good word. I think the Board of Safety received 18 of them for this next meeting next
Oh,
week.
boy.
And they're gonna get
Pretty
probably double that for the next one. So,
Oh,
yeah, we're moving very quickly on it.
guys, you're earning your money.
Yeah.
So we're Lieutenant Purcell is knocking those out. As a matter of fact, Lieutenant Purcell came to me today and said that Lexipol contacted him and said we were the best department going through these policies they've ever had because it's run so smoothly. So
Good.
we should be, my goal is to have our policy manual completely updated by the end of May.
Awesome.
All brand new. So that's it.
Good deal. Thank you, Chief. Chief Wilkening?
We're on the same track with policies. We're gonna have 180 of them total. We've got about 30 of them done. We have a liaison from the commission that is reviewing ours. What we do is I put a book together for him. We delivered the book to him. He's reviewing it as well. And then we'll report to the commission at the commission meeting. A little bit different process than what PD's doing. This is brush fire season. So I'm asking everybody's help. Please do not open burn. It's not a good time to do that, especially it is as wet as it is. It's crazy to think that it's still kind of dry. So then you get out there and you try to fight these fires and you're in the mud and everything else. And we're again, a few issues where we're having to go off road to fight fires, and it's a recipe for a disaster. I've prepared a statement that I'd like to read tonight in reference to the $2.7 million. I'd like to go on the record to say, I'd like to offer my expert monetary spending skills to assist the council in finding projects to spend the money. So at any point in time you need help, please give me a call. I'm there, I'm good at spending money, you guys know that, but it'll be spent in the right spot. So just offer my leadership skills in this particular case.
Much appreciated, Chief.
All right, just going out on a limb. You know, that's what I do.
Let the record reflect that.
We also have the council affairs met about our salaries. I'd like to move forward with that. It was in the budget as well, and Randy's speech about the budget. So I'd like to go through because we did lose that guy. We're possibly going to lose 2 more if we don't start moving on this pretty quickly. And I'd like the blessing from the council eventually or sometime soon to do this. So.
Well, I think that what Jen was waiting on was to get through the first quarter.
Yeah.
And
she did tell me that.
What we discussed in that council affairs meeting was, basically what Chief Fisher had done last year, which was eliminating a person that was budgeted for and then spreading that money out amongst the current roster. But it would also kind of, what we discussed in that meeting was making sure that we were able to properly fund that open position with part-time and not overtime. Because that was the one cost part of it that needed to balance. That's
And
what
our
we're talking
overtime
about.
right now is way high again, and it's because of many factors as well. I have people off on leave. We had that situation where we were waiting on a guy's perf again throughout the beginning of this year. So yeah, we're trying to, and I have my people back on overtime again during this leave that this one firefighter's on. So I just want to stop the bleeding, and I want my people to stay. And they're getting offered jobs all the time, and this number that I threw out is the number of people. So
Well, we'll look forward to our clerk treasurer getting that prepared and get ready for consideration of that, as long as those things are in line that you needed to get past the first quarter. And when you think it's ready, please get us that information so we can consider it.
As soon as I have it ready, it'll come to you.
Thank you.
You're gonna talk about the sirens?
the tornado sirens, yeah, today was tornado siren test day, which doesn't really fall in line with the way we do it every Saturday. But the sirens were tested this morning, and they did work, which is nice. And they're supposed to be tested every Saturday. Cedar Lake and Cherville through Southtown, we decided to run those tornado siren tests out throughout the whole year instead of just during the season, so that people get used to hearing the siren and know what it's for. So it's going to come to the time where we obviously are going to need a couple more sirens in the town. We already do, and we need one in the township that I'm going to sit down and talk to the trustee, Mr. Toth, about putting another one out there as well. The one in the township gets really good coverage because it's pretty flat out there, but we could use one on the north end of the township. We could use one on the southeast part of Cedar Lake, and then one way north. So.
Okay, thank you, Chief.
You're welcome.
Written communication building department report.
I know I already did that.
You did that, Bob.
Bob, thank you. Christopher Burke report.
That's also in your packets, Mr. President.
I don't know if you guys have seen, but Rick, I don't know if you asked Bert to put this in there, giving us a little update on all the House bills. It's pretty interesting what they've been adding and how many are clearing the House, like 47 is zip in most cases, so.
That's the Senate, 47.
Yeah.
Look at the
Quite
annexation.
All these different bills that are happening right now as we speak, there. In some cases, going directly affected.
You're talking about the Don Oliphant's report
Yeah,
where
the
he's
massive
put,
report.
yeah, a lot of the bills in there.
It's getting more and more difficult for municipal government to even exist at this point. Maybe the state knows best and they're gonna appoint people to run the towns. I don't know. Maybe that's the eventual direction. The hell with the voters, just appoint big government. But nonetheless, public comment, open public comment. Any public comment? Third call for public comment. Jen, anything online?
Nothing.
Thank you. Next town council public meeting will be Tuesday, April 6th, 2020 at 7 PM. This meeting's adjourned.
I'm sorry. No, it's fine.